civilization is very seriously impoverished in certain quite fundamental things. To name a few, by and large our cooking is abominable. Our clothes leave a great deal to be desired. Men's clothes are absurdly uncomfortable, and we all go around looking like funeral directors. And housing isn't too hot. Nobody gets particularly educated in the art of lovemaking. And but all these are very fundamental to the good life. We have a reputation in the Orient and here of being the most materialistic civilization on the face of the earth. It's completely undeserved, because a materialist is a person who loves material. And we don't. We're ashamed of it. We want to conquer it, abolish it. We talk about abolishing the limitations of time and space. And as a result of this process, though I will say jet aircraft is one of the few very excellent things that we produce. It's beautiful engineering. And we produce some gorgeous scientific instruments and electronic contraptions. But when we get to more basic things, what happens, you see, is it's like this. When you can go almost immediately and instantaneously from one part of the earth to the other, the two places become the same place. So when you wake up in Tokyo nowadays, you are not quite sure where you are. You're in a strange mixture of Los Angeles, Shanghai, and Paris. And therefore tourists thinking about going, say, to Hawaii or Japan, they invariably ask their friends who've been there, is it spoiled yet? Now what does that mean? It means, is it just like where we start out from? And if it is, there's no point making the trip. Because once you obliterate the material dimension, the distance between two places, as I say, they become the same place. If I offer you a banana, you will be very unsatisfied if I offer you just the two ends of the banana. What you want is the substance between. In the same way, when you consider a great many of our products, automobiles that are essentially toy rocket ships with built-in obsolescence, when you consider fabrics that we use, which fall apart in a hurry, what are we really doing? We say we're practical, but we're not. We're abstractionists, almost like the scholastics, because we are making surfaces with not much underneath them. This is a great way of making money, because it's really cheating. When you go into the grocery business and you manage to make all kinds of imitation food and then inject chemicals and sell people styrofoam instead of bread, well, yes, you may make lots of money. You can also cheat on the packaging by reducing the quantity and making the exterior look very attractive with color photography. And so, but the difficulty is that when you've made all this money, you have nothing to buy with it except other people's inferior products. You have to go outside the country, back to peasants and people like that, who took joy in their work and had a material relationship to it. So this is a serious puzzle, and it all goes hand in hand with an attitude to education that is too abstract, too scholastic, too much in the head and too little in the belly. Lao Tzu says in his book, the energies of the emperor should be directed to keeping the minds of the people unpreoccupied and their bellies well filled, which seems an extraordinary attitude for a mystic. You would think he would be all up in the mind. But the contrary is the case. Great mystics are very well related to the physical world. We think of Saint Teresa of Avila, of the Zen masters, of great Chinese mystics who were also artists, and Hindu mystics who had the most fantastic methods of physical culture. And you realize that the attitude of mysticism is not at all, when you really come down to it, anti-worldly, or as Ing calls it, acosmistic. This is a superstition. Just because they use negative language and may refer on occasion to the world as a maya, or illusion, we forget that the word maya, for example, also means art, and magic, and skill. And it isn't necessarily the point of Hindu spiritual endeavor at all to get rid of one's experience of the world. It may be in some particular emphases of it, some particular schools, but you can't make that a generalization by any means. Furthermore, you will remember that in the most influential form of Buddhism, which is called the Mahayana, that the whole point is that when you've attained enlightenment, instead of going off and disappearing forever into some undiscoverable nirvana, the whole point is that you, as a bodhisattva, come back to work in the world. And that is why Mahayana has been so creative on the artistic level. So there is a very strong bond, you see, between the mystical approach and the empirical approach, since both are interested in experience, and insofar as one realizes the fundamental unity of the cosmos, there is a tendency to do away with the dualism of the spiritual and the physical. I'll never forget when D.T. Suzuki was at the World Congress of Faiths in London in 1936. We had a kind of final round-up lecture in Queen's Hall. And the subject was that several representatives of various traditions were going to talk on the supreme spiritual ideal. Well, one person got up and another person got up and delivered themselves of incredible quantities of hot air. Finally, little old Suzuki got to his feet and said, "I am asked to talk about supreme spiritual ideal. Now I am countryman from very far off place. I do not know what supreme spiritual ideal is. I look it up in the dictionary, but I do not understand this at all." Then he went on to give a description of his house and garden in Japan. And just everybody gave him a standing ovation. It wasn't exactly what he said, it was his attitude. And of course he did say in the course of his observations that what we needed more than anything else was an attitude to life in which the spiritual and the material were inseparable, because otherwise what influence on the material could the spiritual have? It's the old problem, you know, of if you are made of two parts, one spiritual and the other physical, how does the spiritual part move the physical part, since all good ghosts walk straight through brick walls and don't disturb the bricks? So, in this way then, when you look back to the origins of Western science, you find that concern for what is to be found by the observation, by getting involved in the physical universe, was of interest to the same people who were interested in an experimental approach to religion.